You know, knives have been with us throughout time. You know, first there was rock, you know, and then there was sharp rock. Now we're knife makers, here we are. We started out with a sharp rock. But it's a tool. Killing device, yeah it is. So is an automobile. You know, but it's for what you use it for. Most everybody uses a knife on a daily basis. You know, put butter on their bread with. You know, to cut open a cardboard box. It's a tool. Can you kill with it? Yeah, you can. But I don't look at it that way. I look at it as a high quality tool. I'm J.R. Cook, and I am a custom knife maker. I think all males are fascinated with sharp objects as they grow up. I don't know. I've just always liked knives. I grew up on a ranch, and it was a working ranch, so knives were of everyday use. I went full time only 7 years ago. I've been a knife maker 27 years. So it took me 20 years for my knives to become desirable or sought after. It takes a lot of discipline. You've got to really want it. I don't know if you've ever tried to play a musical instrument or not, but to learn to play a musical instrument, you've got to really want to do it. You've got to really want to be it. Want to be the best, and you've got to want to be it really bad. The process on forging the blade, there's a sequence of steps that you have to follow. When you set the pattern up and you're going to make a knife, it's a good idea to know how many layers of steel you end up with. But most times today, instead of just folding it, I will stretch it out as long as I can and cut it in 4 or 5 pieces and restack it so the layer count multiplies much quicker. I like to stop around 800 layers. The very first thing you do in a bar stock is you forge a point down this direction. So you have a point established. The very second thing you do is you have a distal taper, that being from here to here as it tapers out smaller. Let's say you put the distal taper in first and then try to put a point on. It's almost impossible because it's too thin out here. You have no material to hammer down. So the sequences of steps is very important. The third would be pulling the cutting edge down. Now as you pull this cutting edge down with your hammer, this material is being stretched and it gets longer. This material here is not being hit, so it doesn't get stretched, and normally it goes to bending up. So as this occurs, you have to constantly keep that hammered back down, or you'll end up with something that looks like a banana. Then the next thing would be the handle. It also should be tapered from here out. This will give your knife balance. That looks pretty good. The next thing I would do would be to allow the knife to cool. Grind the hammer marks that I've put in there out, polish it, stamp my name, prep it for a guard, and then harden the knife. One method of embellishment for your knives is engraving. This is way more time consuming than you would really think. On one guard, I've spent as much as 2.5 weeks just engraving one guard. In 2012, I made a series called End Times. You know, the Mayan calendar went to 2012, so that was the end of time. And then in the Bible and Revelations, you also have the end time story of the Bible. So I made 4 knives: war, death, pestilence, and famine. each knife being a different shape and design, a dagger, a fighter, a bowie, and a hunter. And on the blades of 2, I put the 4 horsemen running one direction, and on the blades of the other 2, I put the 4 horsemen running the other direction. And then the ivory handles and grips to finish them off. And it was really a neat series. If you called me up and said, hey, I want a knife, I would ask you, would you want a knife that's marked ALT, which is for Arkansas's Living Treasure, or do you just want a knife? And if you just say, I just want a knife, it'll be 7 years before I start your knife. When you make something and you put your heart and your soul into it, and the public really likes it, well, then that really makes you feel good. And then you want to go in search of something else to make. I know some of my knives were bought as gifts for some sheik over in Iran. There's one guy that's bought knives from me, and it's not inexpensive knives that he buys. It's fairly expensive knives, but he mows yards to save money to buy his knives with. There's one customer I have out in New Mexico. I made him a 12-inch Damascus Bowie. And he called me and he said, I just love my knife. He said, I've been using it this weekend, flipping hamburgers on the grill with it. So, a $5,000 Damascus knife he's out there flipping hamburgers with. But he's using it, so that's good. Each shape of a knife is made for a function. Usually if you see a blade that has a lot of sweep to it, that would be more for caping an animal. If you're a fur bearer and you were, taking the fur off of an animal. A knife of this shape, this is more for self-defense. Usually the top is sharpened. So if you're using this knife as a self-defense, you can cut forward or backwards, being both sides sharp. I kind of have a liking for daggers, and they're more into the killing device. But they work real well to get olives out of a jar, so. My ideal of a good knife should be able to pass from one generation to the next for years to come. My great-great-grandchildren should be able to still use the knife that I made. And I think that's pretty neat. I'm Arkansas's living treasure now. When I'm gone, I'll be Arkansas's buried treasure.